Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where here's something interesting. Knives Out had very strong early screenings over the weekend. Lionsgate has run an amazing ad campaign for that film. Probably, I would say, one of the best Lionsgate has ever done. John Wick was pretty darn good too, but Knives Out, as we're going to discuss, is particularly well positioned for the Thanksgiving holiday. But anyway, it did well, and its advanced screenings this weekend. How many of you saw it? I saw it. My review will go up tomorrow. But really, it seems that the knives are truly out for Disney. Yes, it was bound to happen, and we've been seeing people sharpening their knives for a couple of weeks now, right? Even longer than that, I would argue, as Disney domination is becoming simply too much for many. Fans have been upset with Disney for a while, and I think what they have felt has been unfair treatment or a pass for many Disney movies in comparison to other franchises, which I think to some degree is true. But finally, the media and the industry are also starting to cross over, right? And Frozen has become the latest target of those green with envy over the Mouse House's success. It's hugely successful, okay? The Rotten Tomatoes score for Frozen 2 has slipped to 75%. And there have been headlines all weekend about how Frozen 2 is a lot of fun, but here's the problem with it. But you know who doesn't have a problem with Frozen 2, or Disney for that matter in general? Audiences. Elsa and Anna's second adventure got an A- cinema score. The first one got an A+, so it's a bit of a dip, but still, that's an A- cinema score. It's fantastic. It's the top-selling album on iTunes. It was a little slow out of the gate, but today, as of today, it's the number one selling album on iTunes. The deluxe version is number 4. I wonder how many people buy one by mistake and are like, darn it, can you upgrade? I have Apple Music, so I just get whatever I want. But anyway, Into the Unknown started out the weekend at number 29, but now it's number 8 in songs. And Panic at the Disco is, I think, like number 22, which is my favorite song on the album. It's so good. And then, of course, there's the Mountain of Cold Hard Cash. All right, so Frozen 2 is the only animated movie to ever open over 100 million outside of the summer movie season, which, of course, is when kids are definitely not in school. There's like it's a mixed bag right now as to kids' availability. And Frozen 2 is also the biggest global debut ever for an animated movie, ever, opening number 1 in every single country where it debuted this weekend, including China, where it broke records for Disney movies, Disney animation movies. Coming in at 127 million, which many people feel will actually go up by the time the final numbers come in Monday afternoon. That's the 5th biggest opening for November and the 4th biggest opening ever for an animated movie. And look at this. There's another something interesting. The industry is counting Jon Favreau's The Lion King as an animated movie, which it technically is. It just looks real, but it is animated. It's computer animated, which means Frozen 2 is not a slam dunk for Best Animated Feature. Which one would you vote for? I actually get to vote, and for the Critics' Choice Awards this year. The Lion King is an impressive achievement technically, but I think Frozen 2 is so strong emotionally and with story. It's tough. It's a tough call. What do you guys think? Give me your advice. You'll also notice on this list that Illumination Entertainment and DreamWorks a decade ago, so that version of DreamWorks Animation, are the only animation studios able to compete with Disney Pixar. Yes, Disney dominates all the charts and is likely to add yet another billion-dollar movie to their set with Frozen 2, which would be their 7th of this year alone. And Kathleen Kennedy sure is hoping to add an 8th, boy. Joker is the only non-Disney movie so far this year to join the billion-dollar club, with only Jumanji left on the board to possibly join him. And Frozen 2 has not just 1, but 2 weeks of wide-open box office ahead of it. Yes, when Disney decided to push it back a weekend because Thanksgiving falls so late this year, Disney owns Thanksgiving. They release a movie every year for the holiday, which falls on a 5-day weekend. It's a really sweet spot. But because, again, Thanksgiving falls so late this year, usually there's 1 week of November left, but this year it's at the end of the month. So Disney again decided to open Frozen the weekend before Thanksgiving. Very unusual move, but it seems to have literally paid off. But that created a window where another studio could have, because again, it's a 5-day weekend for the holiday, could have come in to counter program. But only Lionsgate is doing so with Knives Out, which I do feel is, as I said, is very strongly positioned for the Thanksgiving holiday. Queen and Slim also opens, which we'll discuss at the end of the episode when we talk about the coming weekend. But yeah, that's just one movie that's projected to be kind of small for next weekend. And then after that, Hollywood typically takes a breather after Thanksgiving, and this year is no exception, even though that is the first week of December. Because, again, the holiday season is shortened this year because of how late Thanksgiving falls. But Hollywood is a slave to tradition, and they leave the weekend after Thanksgiving empty. Frozen 2 has plenty of room to grow also audience-wise, because its opening weekend, the Disney Queen movie, drew a largely female audience and one that was overwhelmingly Caucasian, despite Disney's efforts to diversify Frozen's cast. Also, with so many people traveling and preparing for the Thanksgiving holiday, they might have put a pin in Frozen 2 and are waiting to see it next weekend when they unwind after the holiday at the multiplex. And that's what other movies are counting on too, that you'll go and see them after Thanksgiving, after you've cooked up a storm and after you've shopped on Black Friday, then you'll go and see some of these movies, which could really use your patronage. Yes. Frozen 2 has amassed a nice little iceberg of cash at the top of the box office, but as you can see, there ain't much money below the surface. $16 million was enough for Ford versus Ferrari to place second, and it fell 50% in its second weekend, a bit more than it should have, really. The culprit is likely a very crowded marketplace, with newcomers, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and 21 Bridges spreading audiences basically the same. They're all going after the same audience here, a bit too thin. With those upcoming 2 weeks, both A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and 21 Bridges will be hoping for very small drops next holiday weekend. Those drops will tell us how those movies will ultimately do. Did they just get off to a slow start, or are they, just not going to make it? Ford versus Ferrari will also hope to stop leaking some gas next weekend. And this is where Knives Out will really cut deep, because it's, again, going after that exact same audience as all those other movies. Plus, it's a new movie with a fall family theme, which, as I've been saying, is perfect for Thanksgiving. Are any of these movies on your to-see list next weekend for the holiday? Or if you're overseas, just a plain old weekend? Will you wait to stream them, or are you planning to skip them entirely? Because again, they're all basically the same type of movie. In fact, some of you were even tweeting me over the weekend with these films saying which of these are worth seeing in theaters. Because, you only have so much time, especially again during the holidays when it's such a crowded movie season. Traffic jam. All right, so anyway, then Midway and Playing with Fire both remain shockingly solid. 2 movies everyone felt would be DOA, but here they are 3 weeks in, still posting respectable holds. The Good Liar can also breathe a sigh of relief, as it boasted the best hold in the top 10 after a very slow start last weekend. That's what you want to see. That's what A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and 21 Bridges are hoping for. Then also, after a glorious run, Joker is just about to exit stage right. And yes, it's awards season, speaking of Joker, right? The Golden Globe nominations will be announced December 9th. That's coming up fast. So let's take a look at the specialty box office. At this point, I think we can call it. Neither Jojo Rabbit nor Parasite will ever break into the top 10. It's unfortunate but understandable for a foreign language film with no Hollywood talent. Awkwafina got the farewell into the top 10 for 2 weeks. But it is surprising that with all the online support for Taika Waititi and how aggressive some of you were, right, that nobody ever really showed up for Jojo Rabbit, right? Indeed, audiences seem to have decided to simply ignore the controversial comedy. We were waiting for it to blow up and be this big thing about whether Jojo Rabbit goes too far or if it's just right. And instead everyone was like, you know what? I don't want to even get into it. And we'll see if awards voters do the same thing, or if they rescue Jojo Rabbit from oblivion. That could maybe get it into the top 10. If it gets like a ton of nominations, which could happen, then it might pop into the top 10. Although both are very weak at this point. They just have not found an audience. They could be streaming hits. And also, if you haven't seen either of those films, because they're both playing wide enough at this point that anyone could see them if they wanted to, why haven't you? Speaking of the MCU, Mark Ruffalo's Dark Waters opened in just 4 theaters this weekend with only moderate results. Not the kind of per theater average that's going to get anyone talking. The Todd Haynes environmental thriller, they should have really played up that more, don't you think, that it's a Todd Haynes movie? That will roll out over the next 2 weeks as well, going over again the exact same audience that all those other movies are going after. Now, as soon as those Golden Globe nominations come out, it will switch what's driving the specialty box office for the rest of the year. Right now, it's critics, right, and buzz and word of mouth and stuff like that. But then it will be nominations that start to drive box office. So Bombshell and Uncut Gems still to hit theaters, and you'll notice positioned to come out right after the Golden Globe nominations are hoping to land a slew of them to power their debuts. And I suspect both those movies will be very happy after the Golden Globe nominations are announced, but we'll see. As for this coming weekend, and by the way, the Bombshell embargo lifts on December 9th, the day the Golden Globe nominations come out. And as for Uncut Gems, that's been on the festival circuit, so those reviews have been trickling out for quite some time now, and I plan to review it the week after Thanksgiving. It's very good. All right, so as for this coming weekend, again, Knives Out debuts, as I said, Universal's Queen and Slim. Knives Out, great Thanksgiving movie. I suspect so much so that it might open bigger than the industry is projecting it to. But we'll see how far it ultimately goes. As I said, I'm going to review it tomorrow. Meanwhile, Queen and Slim is an awards launch, and it's hoping, as the only one over the holiday weekend, to make a bit of a splash because of that. And I think it could. But yes, Disney will surely dominate yet again. And on that note, it's time for the Frozen 2 ticket montage. Thank you so much for all your wonderful pictures. Some of you even took me with you to the movies in paper form. And I liked this photo too of BTT member Yusuf inside the projection booth at the movie theater where he works. Very cool behind the scenes photo. So without further ado, time to go into the multiplex.